let's give ourselves a challenge, shall we, Annie fans? We're going to summarise every single Animorphs book for the overarching storyline. What do I mean by that? I mean, of course, we know that there are filler books in the Animorphs series, but surely there's something in every book that plays into the overarching storyline. The overarching storyline being kids get powers to morph. By the end, they stop that invasion. The Yeerk invasion. So in just 1 or 2 sentences per book, let's talk about how they play into the overall plot. Starting with book 1, finishing at book 54, and possibly throwing in the Chronicles and Megamorphs. I don't know, I might just skip that for now. I'll probably just add them as addendums to the end, okay? So, let's go. Book 1, 5 teens receive the power to morph from a fallen Andalite warrior, which allows them to turn into any animal they touch. We also learn about the Yeerk invasion, a bunch of parasitic slugs that take over your body and make you do evil alien things while you're still trapped inside your own head. The Animorphs get their first morphs, including battle morphs, go down to the Yeerk pool and figure out that this invasion is pretty massive. Book 2, we're exposed to one of the local high-ranking controllers. We see that he's in contact with Visser 3. We learn that the first Yeerk pool entrance is closed, and we also get a more personal look at how the Yeerks affect people on an individual basis. Book 3, the Animorphs down a Yeerk tanker which supplies oxygen and water to what we can only assume is the main Yeerk mothership out in space. Number 4, the Animorphs rescue Prince Elfangor's younger brother, Aximili. Prince Elfangor, of course, being the Andalite who gave them the power to morph in the first place, and Ax joins the team. Book 5, they discover the identity of Visser 1, the person at the top of the Yeerk Visser pyramid, and they find out that it's Marco's mother, which gives him the incentive to stay as part of the team, whereas before he was considering quitting. We also learn of the rivalry between Vissers 1 and 3. Book 6, the Animorphs thwart the Yeerk's plan to insert a Yeerk into the state governor who'd be running for president and effectively get rid of a hospital facility that the Yeerks were using to get new hosts. Book 7, the Animorphs destroy the Kandrona, the local Kandrona which feeds the local Yeerks in the area. Book 8, Aximili reveals greater insight in the history of the Andalite-Yeerk War, how the Andalites weren't so rosy-cheeked as they were before, and he's also able to talk to the Andalites back at home and say to them that the Yeerks are on Earth. Book 9, the Animorphs managed to get rid of Dapsum Lumber, which is a Yeerk-owned company that's trying to destroy the forest around the Animorphs' hometown in order to search for Ax. Book 10, the Animorphs discover the Chi, who are a hugely influential race or group of androids in the Animorphs book series. They also manage to steal the Pemalite crystal from the Yeerks and get rid of it so that the Yeerks can no longer use the power or find out about the power of that Pemalite crystal. Book 11, The Forgotten, we start to learn that the Yeerks are trying to come up with new types of ship, possibly as a retaliation to the Andalite bandits being around, so there's a new type of bug fighter. It's something that the Yeerks will start to do a lot more, create new types of fighter to deal with these situations. They're still experimenting, it crash lands though. We're also introduced to the idea of time being malleable, which does play into things in the future. Number 12, the Animorphs thwart the Yeerk's plan to use a local or national celebrity to entice people to the sharing, the Yeerk's main front organisation. The change. Tobias regains his power to morph, which he lost all the way back in book 1, which means he's now able to go on missions again. And also we see the start of the Three Hawk Bajir colony. Jarahami and Ket Halpak are rescued by the Animorphs and are given by the Ellimist a Garden of Eden in which to live and raise their child. Book 14, we learn that the Yeerks are capable of getting inside the heads of different species. For example, horses. And they use that in order to try to sneak into official US government establishments, which we know that they currently do not have. Book 15, we learn that the Yeerks are not just active on Earth, they're also active on a different planet, and they're trying to use different animals to carry out that invasion. So like in the previous book where we find out that they can infiltrate other animals, they're trying to do the same to hammerhead sharks, but there's a different process that they need to do in order to control these sharks, and it turns out to be unsuccessful. The Animorphs thwart this plan, possibly saving Lyra, which is the planet mentioned in the book. More on that later. We also see that Visser 1 is tied to this project. Book 16, Jake's abilities as a leader are challenged and put to the test, but he overcomes that and officially stamps himself as the leader of the Animorphs group from this point on. In Book 17, The Underground, we see the true effects of what happened all the way back in Book 7 with the Kandrona, and we see that some Yeerks have been driven to insanity, literally, from the effects of that Kandrona being destroyed. They found what can only be described as drugs that keeps them going. So things are pretty desperate on the Yeerk side, which probably explains all the actions between Book 7 and Book 17, where the Yeerks are trying to basically diversify into different methods, taking horses, taking sharks, making new bug fighters. They've gone very experimental after that point. They were all going a bit loopy. In Book 18, The Decision, the Animorphs eventually end up on Lyra, the planet we discussed back in Book 15, where the hammerhead sharks were going to come into play. And they destroy the Yeerks' stronghold on that planet, basically destroying the entire continent, the whole piece of land on that planet, effectively ending the Yeerks' invasion of that planet. They also experience an Andalite ship for the first time and find a treasonous prince, again showing that not all Andalites are squeaky clean. In The Departure, we establish the Yeerk peace movement after Cassie and Aftran, a Yeerk, come into contact and explain their differences to each other and come to some sort of resolution. We can directly imply from this that this is where the Yeerk peace movement begins, Book 19. Book 20, The Discovery, the first part of a trilogy. In this one we learn about the Yeerk plot to infest the world's biggest leaders. They're really going for it this time. But at the same time there's a problem with a kid called David who's found the morphing cube. Turns out that by the end of the book the Animorphs are left with no choice but to bring him into the fold. A new Animorph. Book 21, things with David are starting to turn a bit sour at this point, and it turns out that the Animorphs were led into a trap regarding the world leaders. But when the day eventually comes for these Yeerks to take over these leaders, the Animorphs disrupt things and destroy that plan. Book 22, David has turned out to be a traitor, and so the Animorphs compose a way to get rid of him once and for all. Back down to 6 Animorphs. In Book 23, we learn that Tobias is related to Prince Elfangor, though it doesn't really play into the main series at all. What's more important from this book in terms of overall plot, the Yeerks find out that Jarahami and Ket Halpak are still at large. In Book 24, we learn that Cassie has been given custody of the blue box. David had it, now Cassie has it, and she's keeping hold of it. But not very well, and she almost loses it. Book 25, the Animorphs thwart the Yeerks' plan to build a station up in the North Pole that will turn every swimming pool in America into a Yeerk pool. It's a bit out there is that one, isn't it? In Book 26, The Attack, Jake and Cassie share their first proper kiss, and from that point on they're effectively a couple. In the meantime, Jake effectively eliminates the Howlers, one of Kryak, the big evil guy, one of his main weapons. In doing so, they save a race called the Escorts, which is a race closely related to the Yeerks that found a different path to achieving their own freedom. Book 27, Visser 3 learns of the Pemelite ship, something that he then seems to grow an obsession with. In the mission to save the Chi and the Pemelite ship, we also learn that the Drode, Kryak's little minion, has tried to turn Rachel over to his side to get back at Jake, who destroyed his howlers. Book 28, The Experiment. Visser 3 hatches one of his craziest new plans to destroy human free will. The Animorphs, of course, win the battle that goes on, and that plan is cast asunder. You can tell at this stage that Visser 3 truly is getting desperate and resorting to very wacky ideas in order to rid himself of the Andalite bandits problem. Book 29, The Sickness. We find out that Visser 3 now knows of the Yeerk peace movement and has taken Aftran prisoner. The Animorphs proceed to save her, but since she can no longer go back to the Yeerk pool, she morphs whale and lives out the rest of her life in the deep blue sea. Book 30, The Reunion. Turns out Visser 1 has done a pretty bad job and she's being chased down by the Yeerks. She's hiding out, but she tries to get one back on Visser 3 by discovering the Hork-Bajir colony that the Yeerks now know exists. However, thanks to the Chi, the plan to eliminate the free Hork-Bajir fails. Visser 1 disappears for now. Book 31, The Conspiracy. A big one for Jake as a leader because we see how far he will now go in order to achieve his goals. So he considers killing his own brother, and he considers torture a viable method of winning a mission. That plays a role further down the line. In book 32, The Separation, we find out another one of Visser 3's crazy schemes, which is an anti-morphing ray. Rachel is also put through a very, very bizarre phenomenon, but she's recombined and fixed at the end, but is her psyche truly intact? In book 33, The Illusion, the Animorphs used Tobias, a Nothlit, to have the anti-morphing ray used on him in order to convince Visser 3 that the thing doesn't work, and this plan is successful. The anti-morphing ray plan is thwarted. We also meet Taylor, one of Visser 3's wackier sub-Vissers. In book 34, The Prophecy, we establish a new faction on the Hork-Bajir homeworld, a new Hork-Bajir resistance. The Yeerks, who are already spread pretty thin, are now spread even thinner. Book 35, The Proposal. The Yeerks revert to old tactics and try to use celebrities to entice people to join the sharing organisation. Once again, the Animorphs are able to defeat the Yeerks and the plan is thwarted. Basically book 12 again. But this book is happening simultaneous to another, and we're actually going to get one of the Chronicles books in now, Visser, because it has an important part to the overarching plot. Visser 1 has been on the run. We've known that since book 30, and she is now on trial. She goes in front of the Council 13. Visser 3 is also on trial for his various failures that we've seen all the way through up to this point. By the end of that story, Visser 3 is told to bring the Earth to the Yeerks, essentially make sure you enslave all humanity or else we'll kill you, and Visser 1 is sent to the Inati homeworld to do a different invasion. The Yeerks are now getting desperate, and they say as much in the Visser Chronicles. In book 36, after Visser 3 is given this ultimatum, he creates the Sea Blade in order to find the Pemelite ship. The reasons for which we're not too sure, but probably just another desperate attempt to gain the extra power he needs to take over the Earth. The Animorphs, however, destroy the Sea Blade during this book. Book 37, we find that Visser 3 is indeed being watched over by the Council of 13 through a proxy known as the Inspector, who is yet another alien race. The Animorphs try to make the Visser look like he has no control over the situation, but the Garrotron who could report that information back to the Council is killed in battle. In book 38, The Arrival, we get Unit 0, a group of 4 Andalites who come down to Earth with an unusual mission. It turns out that these Andalites are going to do the old trusted Andalite technique of cluster and boom. Humans don't want to end up like the Hork-Bajir, biological weaponized into oblivion. The Animorphs won't accept that, and so the Andalites have to go. In book 39, The Hidden, we find out that the Yeerks found one of the Helmicron ships that we discovered back in book 24, and they've reprogrammed the ship to help them search for the blue box because the Helmicrons were able to track the morphing cube energy. So now the Yeerks have it, and they have it in this helicopter, searching for this blue box. By the end of the book, they managed to destroy that helicopter with the Helmicron ship inside it, ending that problem once and for all. Once again, the safety of the Escalation is brought into question. Book 40, The Other, we find out that Axe doesn't like disabled people. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't worry, it does sort of play into what happens later, but that's as good as I can get from that book, honestly. In book 41, The Familiar, Jake has a very, very real dream in which we see how far he truly will go in order to achieve his goals. And part of that is killing his girlfriend, Cassie, indirectly. Should say he lets Cassie die, not killing her. Just to be clear. This is the point where we see that Jake has truly gone from normal, average guy who cares a lot for his family more than anything else to a true leader who makes personal sacrifice in order to bring about the bigger victory. Book 42, The Journey. The Animorphs get rid of another Yeerk plan which involves a bakery. Okay, but they also defeat the Helmicrons again, and this time, thank God, the Helmicrons leave for good. Book 43, The Test. Taylor's back, Visser's meddlesome sub-Visser, and they've hatched a plan to manipulate the Animorphs into blowing up the Yeerk pool with the Yeerk peace movement inside. Such an explosion would kill the Andalite bandits, the Yeerk peace movement, and show the Council of 13 that Visser 3 is truly under attack by forces so big that they will blow up the biggest Yeerk pool, probably bringing sympathy to his cause from the Council of 13, who we know are seriously looking at him. Because as we learned from Visser, he wants an all-out invasion, and what better way to get it than for the Andalite bandits to blow up his Yeerk pool and force him into that corner. Book 44. After ducking out of the mission back in book 43, Cassie is in need of a serious self-pep talk, and that is what this book provides, keeping Cassie in the fold. Book 45, The Revelation. The Yeerks find out that Peter, Marco's dad, has basically discovered zero space, and they track him down and they want to capture him. Marco fakes his own death to get Peter out of there and save him, and Peter goes to live with the Chi for now. The Animals are also able to kill Visser 1 and free Marco's mother, who was the host for Visser 1. Visser 1 obviously failed in her mission to take over the Anati home planet. The Yeerk forces in the background are obviously not doing too good. Book 46, The Deception, we find out that since Visser 1, Idris, has been killed and effectively probably demoted before that, Visser 3 has now been promoted to Visser 1. Visser 2 shows up and is helping Visser 1 with his new scheme, which is to get the Chinese and the Americans fighting in one big world war, because Visser 3, now Visser 1, why am I doing air quotes for that, wants things to really kick off into one big all-out war, and that's one of the ways he wants to do it. The Animals, of course, thwart this, and in the meantime, take out Visser 2. In book 47, The Resistance, one of the Hawkbajir of the Free Colony gets captured, and the Yeerks find out where their new hiding place, or where their hiding place is. And so the Animorphs, with the Hawkbajir, defend that area. But in defending it, it is destroyed, and they're forced to move to a new area. Book 48 sees the culmination of the Drode-Rachel plot, which was started quite a while ago now. So ever since, the Drode has apparently been trying to, and Kryak, get Rachel on their side in order to kill Jake. And this is where they give essentially their final offer, using David, or what we believe to be David, whether it be a hallucination or not, to turn her over to the dark side. Rachel resists and eventually succeeds, but in doing so, she realises her own flaws. And this is where she realises that she cannot live without the war she fights in, and will ultimately die with the war. This book acts as the culmination, or the climax, of both the Drode Howlers saga and the David saga in one fell swoop. In book 49, The Diversion, Visser 3 learns how DNA works, and by collecting blood samples from a battle site, is able to then track down through a means of through various clues who the Animorphs are. And he's going to go for the parents. So this book follows the Animorphs as they rescue their parents, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. So Jake's parents are lost to the Yeerks. Rachel manages to save her mother. Marco, his parents are already now living with the Free Hork-Bajir, whose colony has moved. And Tobias discovers his long-lost mother, Lauren, who had a kid, Tobias, with Prince Elfangor, then in a human morph. All the parents then live with the Free Hork-Bajir colony and form this new end-of-series faction, the ultimate Animorphs and Hork-Bajir and parents resistance. After learning back in 47 to basically amass as many people as possible loyal to the cause, Book 50 comes along, and Jake and the other Animorphs want to have new members of the team, and they enlist 17 auxiliary Animorphs, disabled children. This is also the book where the Animorphs lose the blue box, which has almost been lost several times before, but this time, rather than it being stolen, it's given away by Cassie. Effectively, anyway. She lets Tom go with the blue box. Jake tries to take Tom down and effectively kill him, which is something that we've seen him moving towards, but Cassie stops him. This shows the crack in the team, and things get a bit sour in the Animorphs camp from here on out. The Yeerks are now capable of morphing. Book 51, The Absolute. Some of the Animorphs are sent to the state capital where the new governor, different one from all the way back in book 6, is apparently uninfested, and the Animorphs warn her that the Yeerks are here, and they're hoping to take the National Guard. With their new morphing powers and all the other stuff going on, the Yeerks really are powering forward, and they want that National Guard. They're chasing down like the train at the start of the book with all the tanks and what have you, and things are going to get really dangerous unless the Animorphs act fast, so they tell the governor, and she announces the Yeerk invasion on national television. Book 52, The Sacrifice, comes next, and although it looks like it would do some damage, the state governor is basically called crazy by all the media, probably Yeerk owned by this point, so not much happens from that. But the armed forces have been made well aware. Axe is contacted by the Andalites, he's still in talks with them, and they want to do the usual Andalite cluster and bomb technique to get rid of the Yeerks. But Axe has an inner monologue battle about that. He doesn't want to blow up the humans. He doesn't want all these Yeerk forces coming to Earth because things didn't go well on the Inati planet where the rest of the Yeerks are. They're coming down here. The Andalites are going to use that to blow them up. The Animorphs do something similar though, and they take munitions from a military base. They get some of the military on board with them, and they send a train full of bombs down to the Yeerk pool and blow it up. Things have really come that far for the Animorphs. They've finally done what they said they wanted to do right at the start, blow up the Yeerk pool. Book 53, the penultimate book. Because of the destruction of the Yeerk pool, the Yeerk mothership has come down to supply the Kandrona. Things now are at breaking point. And Visser 3 has gone, well, Visser 1 has gone a bit mad. Jake formulates a plan, and he uses the Chi to get aboard the Yeerk mothership and cause havoc, and eventually defeat the Yeerks on the Yeerk pool ship. But he's also sent Rachel on a blade ship with Tom, who thinks he's manipulating the Animorphs, but actually they're manipulating him. Book 54, the last book of the series. We see the last of this battle where the Animorphs and their allies take the pool ship, while a lot of people around Jake, a lot of his team have been killed, including the entire auxiliaries and what have you. We take a look around this scene of death and destruction. But the Chi, or Eric, has powered down the weapons of the pool ship that was going to destroy the Blade ship with Tom and the morph-capable Yeerks on it, and Rachel. Rachel manages to kill Tom, but because of the powering down of the weapons, that Blade ship escapes and disappears into the Yonder. However, the bulk of the Yeerk forces are defeated, and Earth celebrates its victory. They know everything about this invasion now. All the secrets are out there. The Animorphs become celebrities, but their lives after the war are filled with trauma, regret, and pain. Rachel has died, having been killed by one of the morph-capable Yeerks. Jake becomes a university teacher with leadership training and all that stuff, but a deep-seated pain. Marco is morphing lobsters in his own pool and seems to be compensating for his trauma by getting a big mansion and some hot babes at the side. Deep down, he too is suffering from some form of PTSD. Tobias, who seemed to be strung back to humanity by his affection with Rachel, now that she's gone, he goes too, but he goes to live with the Hork-Bajir, who have moved to Yellowstone. Cassie has also moved to Yellowstone and is working with the Hork-Bajir, at least she is by the time 3 years have passed. Axe becomes a prince, and eventually the prince aboard his own ship, Intrepid. And then we conclude the series 3 years down the line. Axe has been taken by a mysterious beast called The One. Jake reforms the Animorphs with a few additions: Sergeant Santarelli, Menderash Pustel-Fastil, and Jean Gerard. And together, without Cassie, who stays back with the Hork-Bajir and her new boyfriend Ronnie, this new Animorphs team go out into space in order to find Axe, and we're left on a very controversial cliffhanger. And that's it. That's pretty much every book summarised that needed to be summarised. There's obviously Chronicles books, Megamorphs books, but they didn't really play into the overall plot. They're sort of supplemental. But I hope you enjoyed this little roundup of basically every book and how they could perceivably be part of the overall story. So basically, if you wanted to be convinced that there is no filler book here, this is probably the best place to find out why. If you're interested in what happens after the events in book 54, I've been writing my own fanfiction series. So please go check that out. I will leave a link on the end card of this video taking you to my book 55 thing and what have you. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you think there's anything I've missed or anything that you think I should have mentioned that was a bit more important, or anything that you think I shouldn't have mentioned, or whatever you want to say, please do tell me in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, comment and share and all that stuff, and I shall see you next time. Ta-ra!